I have some great Karen Takedown stories for you today, and you're going to love that title story too. Here's our first one, entitled Mother and Daughter Karens Try to Scam the Hotel Restaurant, posted by High Phoenix with an update. Buckle in, guys, it's a long one. I'm the food and beverage manager at a hotel that's right next to one of the most beautiful mountains in my country. That said, the hotel is literally in the middle of nowhere, a 20-kilometer drive to the nearest main road in town. When it comes to bookings for the restaurant, the bookings are made at reception and the information goes in our booking file, which I check every day. I only get hands-on involved when the booking consists of 20 or more people. Any less than that are left to the restaurant supervisors, as I've started giving them more responsibilities. Now, on to the main story. Our reservations manager called me one day asking me to come take a look at an event that was just booked at our hotel. 25 guests. A woman, our entitled daughter, wants to have a birthday celebration for her mother's 52nd birthday. I think easy peasy. I get in touch with her, I send her my wine and drinks list, and she chooses what she wants and prepays for the drinks. Easy $7,000. A week goes by and I get called by the reservation manager that the lady has upped her booking to 50 guests now. Immediately, I'm thinking, oh crap, the space that she reserved for her celebration can hold maybe 40 people max, and she is bringing a few children as well. I get in touch with her again. I explain that we'll have to move her to our main restaurant area as the West Wing won't accommodate all her guests. I advise her that she can gladly choose our private venue, which is downstairs. It's mainly for conferences, but she'll have to pay an additional $7,000 for the venue hire. She opted for the restaurant. A side note, I mentioned the conference space as she wanted identical tables and chairs. Our restaurant has a mix of styles and I absolutely hate it, but anyway. I let her know that that'll be fine, and then I ask if she wants to keep her buffet option the same to finalize what is due to cater for the additional people attending. She lets me know that she wants it the same as her original option, and I must just let her know what else is outstanding so that she can pay it. I'm thinking, great, awesome client, will be a smooth evening as we are getting the finer details done 2 weeks prior. But would I be posting here if that were the case? I chat to our reservations manager, we reconcile all her POPs and get a final amount due. I call the entitled daughter back and let her know that about $8,000 is due. She is absolutely shocked and asks, but why so much? This is how the conversation went. I said, ma'am, you have only paid $5,000 so far, excluding your drinks. The total amount for the food is $13,250. But I've already paid so much money. Why am I being charged so much for the food? Well, you'll be having 50 guests, and the buffet option that you've chosen is $265 per person. That comes out to $13,250. With you already having paid $5,000, this leaves $8,250 due. No. Then something wasn't explained to me properly. When I spoke to your manager, she said that the buffet option that I chose, I only have to pay for 30 guests and then I can add people on if I want. I'm over here just trying to comprehend what this grown woman has just said to me. I go, ma'am, the buffet option that you chose can only be provided if your booking is 30 people minimum, and then every person that you add onto that is charged on top of that. No, OP, or original poster, this was not explained to me properly. I literally face-palmed myself. Our manager has been doing her job beautifully for the last 6+ years, so at this point, I was highly doubting that she explained it in the way that the entitled daughter was saying. But I give her the benefit of the doubt, rolling it out to a simple miscommunication. We'll get it sorted, right? Insert Donald Trump wrong meme here. She finally accepts that she has to pay the remaining balance, but gives me the silent treatment after that. Over the next 2 weeks, I text her about certain details that I just want to confirm, but she never responded. Then the event rolls around yesterday. Supervisor 1 and myself set the restaurant up neatly. We moved some other tables upstairs to our loft area so that our in-house guests can have a space for dinner without being bothered by the celebration in the main restaurant. Entitled daughter finally shows up at around 11 a.m. with her decorator to get the final touches done. She is very happy with the space, compliments our service, and keeps calling me sweetie. Ugh. And then we leave her and the decorating team to do their thing so that we can get the lunch and dinner setups done. I'm nearing an 8-hour shift by the time that I can finally sit down and just eat, having worked 12 days in a row now with multiple double shifts. And suffice to say, I'm a little cranky. Now, I do my own scheduling. See, I'm working a lot due to being understaffed in the restaurant, so I'm there a lot to help my staff. I took one bite of my food, and my office phone rings. I see that it's the front desk's extension. I answer. Receptionist 1 says, "Hi, OP. The daughter Karen wants to speak to you." Me, trying not to cry, says, "Okay, I'll be there now." I put my pizza slice down, take a sip of my Red Bull, and trot off to reception. I spot the entitled daughter Karen standing at reception, looking absolutely defeated. I put on my best customer service smile and speak in a sickly sweet voice. "Hi, ma'am, is everything all right?" No, it's not. I am just being told now that I cannot bring my DJ." I just stand there. I'm just dumbfounded. Why was I not told before that I cannot bring a DJ? I've already paid for him, and I don't think I'll get my money back as he's already on his way here. Ma'am, you never mentioned that you were bringing a DJ. No, I did. When I did the walk around with the manager, I mentioned that I was going to bring a DJ, and she said that it was fine. I've wasted more money now. I give a quick glance toward the front office manager, a silent plea. And now the front office manager is being so rude to me, making me feel like that I am stupid, telling me that it's a public area and obviously a DJ would be a problem. I just look at her, just nodding. What am I going to do now? I guide her away from reception, explaining that, well, because this is a hotel, we cannot accommodate a DJ in the restaurant, as we have guests that would be disturbed by the music. We have to take our other guests into consideration. She sighs, puts her hand in front of her mouth, and just says, "Is there any way we can get the DJ here?" I tell her that the best that I can do is create a playlist for her on our sound system in the restaurant. She accepts this begrudgingly and wanders off to her decorating team. I shoot a look over to the front office manager again, and I just see her smirking. I love that woman's no-nonsense attitude. I disappear to my office again. My pizza is cold by now, and I just frown. I plop down on my chair and just shuffle the pizza into my mouth, trying to also get as much work done as possible before the start of the event at 4 p.m. so that I can be present on the floor. 4 p.m. rolls around, and I am just exhausted. Having worked 10 hours already, I just need to stay around for an hour to make sure that everything is fine. Then I can slip away. Psych! We set out 58 plates for 50 guests and 8 children, as was confirmed, and we let the party begin. They're loud. Oh my goodness. Supervisor 1, Supervisor 2, and myself have to constantly ask for the music to be put down softer, for them to not scream that we have guests in the loft area. But this falls on deaf ears. Supervisor 2 eventually said that if they continue to be too loud, we will have to ask them to leave. This finally kicks in. They tone it down. I make sure that my staff are okay, that all the areas are covered, and have a quick chat with a few guests, and then I head off for the night. I have accommodation in the hotel, as I was placed here on a temporary contract to fix the food and the beverage department. to then later be transferred to a hotel in the same group in my city about 4 hours away. I try to relax as much as possible, but knowing I have a proper Karen on my hands, I only stayed away for about an hour. I got dressed in casual clothes and headed back to the restaurant. What I saw nearly gave me a heart attack. Well, that and the 3 Red Bulls that I already had at this point. There were easily 60 people flocked in the restaurant, not the 50 that were paid for. I walk into the kitchen and the chefs are visibly panicking. They can't keep up with the amount of food that's being needed to replenish the buffet station. Executive chef yells out, "OP, there are more than 70 people. What is going on?" And now the update about Karen's mom, Karen herself, and their crazy friend. I honestly didn't expect this to gain much traction, but who here doesn't love some classic drama? Okay, so after the executive chef was practically pooping her pants, I went to the front office manager's office with a look that screamed emergency. I told her that there are way too many people here. She calmed me down because, well, I too can be a drama queen, and grabbed 2 cigarettes for us to quickly go smoke. Once we were back inside, we went upstairs to the loft area that overlooks the restaurant. We did a walkabout and did a head count each. She counted 72, I counted 74, but I was absolutely exhausted, so I could have been wrong. She counted again, 72. At that point, front office manager was so tired of this woman and her antics, calling her a chance taker, that she just burst out laughing. Front office manager and I went to her office, and on our way, we looked for the Karen daughter so I could discuss the extra attendees. I couldn't find her at all. It was a themed event, and every single person wore white. A sea of frickin' snow almost. I shoot her a text explaining that we have done a head count, and now the additional buffets need to be rung up on her docket, and she needs to pay the balance so that we can settle it on the point of sale. I finally spotted her through the tinted window between the office and reception, phone ever so gracefully lighting up her face. She squinted, stared at her phone some more, and whispered to the person next to her, and then called Supervisor 2 over to her. Oh boy, here we go. I chat some more with front office manager, and Supervisor 2 walks in, almost laughing. OP, the Karen is asking for you. I grin at the front office manager, and she just wishes me luck. I walk over to our lounge area next to reception, where Karen is sitting with 3 other ladies, one of which was wearing a big puffy white dress similar to a wedding dress. Aha, you must be the guest of honor. Karen says, OP, I'm stressing about this bill now. I was having such a great night, and now I feel it is just spoiled. I look at her holding the check, a nice, fat 24,000 something bucks in bold. I snicker internally to myself. This check was her drinks and all the buffets. Ma'am, you informed us that you would be attending with 50 guests. We have to charge you for the food that your guests have eaten. Thank goodness we always do keep a fair amount of food in the fridge, as just in case of an emergency, because we can just suddenly have a party of 20 people wanting to have lunch on a last-minute walk-in. But OP, the point of a buffet is that it's all you can eat. The food ran out so quickly. Ma'am, with all due respect, it would run out quicker than expected due to having to cater for over 70 people instead of 50. We catered for 50 people, having at least 2.5 portions each. That's an extra 50 odd portions that were unexpectedly needed. This is where the entitled Mother Karen finally steps up. She says in her big old poofy dress, looking down at me, "This is not right. My daughter has paid a lot of money, and still she is treated poorly. Your service staff are disgustingly rude. That lady, the front office manager, is so rude, and it is just shocking." Yes, OP, the daughter says, I don't have this kind of money, and with all my money being wasted on the DJ that I couldn't get here, I'll only be able to pay on the 31st, which is 4 days after her event. My eyes widen a little at the sudden hostility, as I felt that I've been very respectful and have been trying to resolve this amicably. I reply, unfortunately, you will have to settle the balance before you leave the premises, whether that be when you check out tomorrow or leave tonight. We cannot allow you off of the property without paying. The entitled Mother Karen huffs and puffs and says something to her daughter in a language that I don't understand. It's a very common language spoken here, but I'm part of the minority that doesn't speak it. I speak to the front office manager and supervisor too that she needs to sign her bill before she leaves the restaurant. I am just mentally drained, and I peace out for the night. The next morning, a new day full of opportunities to resolve the bitterness from last night, a new day full of promising drama. I am up early, I get dressed, and I head for the restaurant. It is super quiet, and I make myself the most god-awful cappuccino that I've ever made in my life. I get to work, chat with the executive chef, and, being typical women, we gossip about the previous night. And always remember, speak of the devil, and you shall step on his tail. My office phone rings. It's reception. I giggle as I answer, eager for some drama. But alas, I was not blessed. The security at the main gate gives each guest a slip with a gate code for when they leave. When a guest loses their slip, a senior manager has to escort the guest to the main gate, confirm that the guest has stayed at the hotel, sign their new slip, and off everyone goes. I am lazy as heck. I refuse to walk the 500 meters or 600 meters way to the main gate, so I go to my hotel room, get my car keys, and drive to the main gate. Oh lordy, do I start drooling. It's the wine red colored Mustang GT the front office manager and I have been eyeing every time we went to smoke. Just pure chef's kiss perfection. Security lets them out, I wish them a pleasant trip, and drive back to the hotel. I forgot my cigarettes in my hotel room that morning, so I informed the executive chef that I'm taking my keys back to my room, grabbing my smokes, and then I want to go frickin' smoke. It's nearly 10 a.m. and I need nicotine. On my way to my room, I pass reception. Oh no, there is the daughter Karen, mother Karen, and entitled friend. Entitled friend spots me, a little white lady that's been so accommodating to our every insufferable need, and snaps her fingers at me, beckoning me over like a mutt. I stick on a smile, just desperate to go smoke, rather wanting to put a fire out with my face than talk to this piece of work. She screams at me, "You need to do something about front office manager. She is the rudest person that I have ever dealt with. You need to speak to her, teach her how to treat guests." I calmly raise my hands, asking her to please keep her voice down and to please explain what happened. She practically spits out a repetition of what she just said. I ask to be excused, and I slip into the front office manager's office. She is just smirking. This is what front office manager told me happened when I was letting the guest out at the main gate. Receptionist too was helping them finalize payments so that they can check out and just leave to be Death Eaters elsewhere. Front office manager hears a slight commotion start up and goes to the front desk to ask if she can be of assistance. Entitled Mother Karen, Daughter Karen, and Entitled Friend just unleash at her, saying that she must not even speak to them, that she is rude, and Entitled Friend even dared her to come around to this side of the desk, while she's recording front office manager and threatening to post our terrible hotel on Twitter. Front office manager ignored everything after that and stepped back into her office. We contacted the director of operations for our group and explained the whole story. I actually heard him laugh through the earpiece. Front office manager grabs the operations director's business card, hands it to me, and asks me to give it to them, to email him directly about all of their concerns. When I stepped out to hand it to them, explaining that we have spoken to the operations director, with a slight smile on my face, Entitled Friend looks defeated at this point. Taking the card, she sets it down on the counter and just walks away. In the beginning, they tried to pay less for more people, got caught, and then still brought more people thereafter. Then it turned to excuses like, "Oh no, I can't pay," to a flurry of verbal abuse to scare us into dropping the extra charges. After they paid and left, we burst out laughing, wishing, oh so badly, wishing that the hospitality purge thingy could be real. That we get one time a year that we can pepper spray a guest. And we made some killer money last night, thanks to entitled Mother Karen and Daughter Karen finally coughing up what they owed us. As we get into the next story, I have to tell you something. Hey, also I added more stories to the new 24/7 HOA Karen radio stream on the channel, perfect to binge or play for background noise while you sleep. Check out the link in the description or on the front page of the channel. It looks like this. My previous job title was as an office service consultant and technician. What is that, you may ask? Well, basically, if it was in an office environment, I was probably going to be dealing with it at some point in time. Over 21 years ago, I started working as a service technician fixing office equipment like copiers and printers, typewriters and faxes, and so on. The company I started working for was the local go-to for everything office related, from furniture, equipment, supplies, and more. The closest name brand office store was a 40-minute drive over a mountain, so it was steady work. We offered local service and delivery for everything that we did and sold. Now, this was pre-Amazon days, so back then, this was a big deal. After 2 years of me working there, the company expanded and merged with 2 other local businesses to include PC repairs, networking, phone systems, and providing dial-up service. The good old days of waiting 3 minutes or more for a web page to load. Now, prior to this merger, I had already gotten into PC work personally for myself and family and friends when the need arose, but with the merger, I was finally able to learn more and expand my knowledge. So now, my job included all office equipment, PCs, phone systems, and some networking. Since support service included so much, most places were sold service contracts where the customer would pay a flat monthly or quarterly or yearly rate for whatever they wanted included. You want us to deal with the copier and printers, and you'll deal with the PC issues as needed? No problem. You want us to take care of everything electrical in the office other than the actual electrical wiring? You got it. This went on for another 2 years, and eventually a bigger company from a major city 70 miles away wanted in on all the smaller town customers that they were missing out on. So they just bought out the company that I worked at. Basically, nothing really changed except the name on the paycheck and who had the final say on things. Everything else was business as usual. Now, prior to being bought out, things were run as a local business, and that's how the customers were treated, as local customers. After about 1.5 years, the big city bosses felt that since they made big city profits, this should also apply out to local smaller town customers, so they started increasing prices on everything to match the big city numbers. This went about as well as you'd think. Customers started seriously complaining and dropping contracts. The office supplies section was dropped completely due to most folks going to the name brand store over the mountain and still saving money, as well as online ordering really starting to take off. My manager at the time had been the lead tech and service manager since I started and was on good terms with all our customers who had contracts, well, since he maintained and sold them. He hated how things were going and knew it was a matter of time before customers dropped our services due to the price hikes. He asked me if I would join him as his lead tech if he started his own business and promised me I'd eventually be service manager as the business expanded. Me being the stupid 20-something idiot that I was, I believed him and said, yeah. So he started his own business and cut ties with the big city company. Customers eagerly jumped ship and signed back up with the local guys they had known for years now, back at local prices. The business shifted into focusing on everything office related except supplies. Our line of thinking was, we will do anything if the price is right. The boss shifted to sales and furniture while I was left to deal with everything technical. If the customer asked about something and he would say, sure thing, let me get you some numbers, and then tell me to figure out the technical side while he'd handle the logistics. Need a security camera system for the local water treatment plant? No problem. He'd figure out the floor plan, how much cable we'd need, and then I would figure out what hardware was needed, cameras, DVR, wireless points, and so on, and then how to make it all work. Switching jobs, going from crap job to the promised land. I worked for my manager's new business for roughly 9 or 10 years as the only technician in Dick's company. We had attempted to hire several other techs, but no one lasted more than a few months due to the sheer amount of things we worked on, the area we covered, and my boss being, well, I'll just say it, a dick. I averaged 3,000 miles a month and was working probably 50 to 60 hours a week for a 40-hour salary. With all my extra hours, I was making less than $10 an hour, losing my sanity, got zero time off, and was generally fried from the service gig entirely. I told my boss I needed a raise to match my years of experience and the actual hours put in on the job, as well as some actual time off that if I took a day off, I was left the heck alone. He said, sure, we'll talk about it, and then he ghosted me when I tried to get time to talk. I let this slide for 2 months while I started looking for another job. I got lucky and ended up going to an open house at a local manufacturing plant that makes medical equipment. After going through and seeing what they made along with the tech that was backing it, I knew I wanted to work there. I applied and got a call back in less than a week. The guy who called was very nice, and we talked for a bit, and after the standard corporate questions, I explained how I went to the open house and was really interested in the new tech they were developing and couldn't wait to be a part of something bigger. I think this may have genuinely gotten to him because he asked me to hold for a few minutes. He wanted to check something. When he got back on the line, he asked if I could come in for a formal interview on site in 2 days. My response was, absolutely. 2 days later, I do my in-person interview and things go just as good as the phone interview. During the interview, I explained that if I got hired, I would need at least 2 weeks to let my current employer know and give them my notice. At the end, the lead interviewer shook my hand and said, I can't officially say this today, but if I were you, I'd put in that 2-week notice. You'll be hearing from us by the end of the week with a couple of things that we need finalized to get your employment started. I was overjoyed. This new job would be hourly with overtime, way better pay than my current job with shift differential, 3 paid weeks vacation, and 10 days sick time. To me, this was basically hitting the lottery. Story time. Compliance. I was a field service tech for a total of 15 years. I've worked on more equipment than I can remember. I enjoyed it for the most part. Mainly office equipment, PCs, and networks, but I did have the occasional phone system, camera system, fire alarm, security door, badge system, remote entry system, and more. Due to the sheer amount of different tech I dealt with, I kept very meticulous notes, made wiring diagrams, recorded master passwords or backdoors to any of the systems I didn't work with on a regular basis, and kept backups of software related to any of the installs or operations. I did this with everything, unless otherwise specified by the customer, since I was going to be the guy fixing it if things went sideways. I was also in charge of training the customers on the tech. This led to me being a serious jack of all trades and some serious burnout due to being the only tech. I finally had the opportunity to switch jobs, so I put in my 2 weeks notice in with my old job, and this is the basic conversation I had with my old boss over the phone. The cast is as follows. Dick is my old boss, and me, hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father, prepare to die. Or, I mean me. Dick says, you're quitting? Why didn't you say something? Are you unhappy with your job? I did say something and you kept brushing me off, so yes, I am unhappy. That's why I'm giving you a 2-week notice. There's no way I can get someone hired and trained to do your job in 2 weeks. What the heck am I supposed to do? You're my only tech. How am I going to take care of all my customers? It's not really my problem, but you have 2 weeks to come up with something. I'll keep doing everything till then, but I'm out after 2 weeks. Let me get back to you. I need to do some thinking. Insert an eye roll here and mentally thinking, no crap, Sherlock. A week later, Dick calls me into his office. I'm working on getting a tech. Is there any way you can stay longer than another week till I get one? No, I'm not putting off the new job since it pays so much better and has actual set hours. What do you want? Tell me what I need to do to keep you around long enough till I get this new tech in. Seriously? Let me think. I thought about it for roughly 5 minutes and came up with this. Okay. I'll tell you what. Since my new job is second shift, I'll work for you in the mornings from 9 to 2. My time starts when I leave my house at 9 and ends with me being back in town at 2, so I have time to get to my new job. You will transfer my company cell phone into my own account since I've used it for all my contacts and personal family and friends. You will pay me hourly at the same rate as my new job, including the shift differential. I get to keep my tool bag and laptop. Any emergencies will be handled in this time frame, and I will be left alone after hours and on weekends. All I really wanted was the pay and the cell number. The number wasn't listed on any of Dick's company's sites or paperwork, and I really didn't want to get a new number and then have to update all my info I'd used it for. I wasn't concerned about the laptop or the tool bag. I was just going for broke to see what I could get away with. Dick replies, The pay and the cell number are fine, but you have to return all company property by end of week, including your tools and laptop. You can pick them up daily from the office and return them at the end of the day. I need access to them in case I need them to fix something. Also, you will sign a non-compete for 3 years once I get the new technician to keep you from servicing my clients. I say, okay, deal, but the cell gets transferred by end of day tomorrow. I'll call you in the morning when I get to the cell company. Deal. I shook his hand and went about my day. Now, I can hear all of you flying to your keyboards to jump into the comments to go, "You idiot, you didn't get it in writing." Well, and you're all absolutely correct. I should have gotten all of that in writing. I was burnt out, I was tired, and I had no more craps to give. The next day, I got the cell number transferred over to my name and set out business as usual. Now, at the end of the week, I got what should be my last check at the old rate. I turned over my tools and laptop and had a very pleasant weekend. Monday rolls around and I work the hours I said I would and then go to my second job. I do this for the week without issue. Next week kicks off and I ask if there's been any progress on getting a tech. He says yes, they start next week. Okay, I'll start getting the new guy up to speed on our main systems next week then. Friday comes and I notice my check is still at my old rate. It's hourly now and the hours are correct, but not the rate. I try to get a hold of Dick, but no answer. Office lady says he's out of service till Monday and there's nothing she can do about my check. You can all see where this is heading. Monday rolls around and I meet the new tech and talk to Dick about my check. I say, so my check wasn't right and you ghosted me. What? No, I didn't ghost you. I was out of town in an area with poor reception. I'll talk to the payroll and get you a new check cut for the difference on Friday. Okay. Okay. Well, I'll start going over things with the new guy. Should I take him on any calls with me? Oh no, he's a trained tech. He's just not used to our brand of equipment. So go over them with him, show him the ins and outs and the software, and networking them and programming things, the usual stuff that we do to get a new machine set up. Okay, will do. Friday rolls up, and I'm sure you're all shocked to hear and read that payroll did not have a check cut for me. So I said screw it and went home. Didn't even bother trying to call Dick because I just knew I wasn't going to get an answer, right? I just turned my cell off. Monday comes, I don't go to the old job and I sleep in till noon. I left my cell off for the day and enjoyed the new job. Tuesday morning, I finally kick my cell back on and there's several voicemails and a couple of texts from Dick. He's wondering where I am, why I haven't showed up for 2 days. I calmly call him and have this conversation. Finally, what the heck? Where have you been for the last 2 days? I cut him off and saying, do you have a check for me? Check? What are you talking about? You know exactly what I'm talking about, and you know exactly what you did. You screwed me just like you did for years, and I let it happen. I thought I would help you out because I'm a nice guy, and you spit in my face. We're done. Lose this number. We're not done. You still haven't signed the non-compete. Seriously? You're being serious. You expect me to sign a non-compete after all of this? You will, or I'll sue you for breach of a verbal agreement. I have a recording of our conversation and a witness who heard you say you'd sign it. I transferred the cell number per our agreement and paid you for your time. I upheld my end of the bargain." I have no clue if any of that was true. If he did have it recorded, I'm sure it was edited to just the part where he agreed to the cell number and the pay, and of me agreeing to the non-compete. As for a witness, unless someone was listening through the office phone, there was no one else in his office when we talked. I have no clue if any of the BS he was saying was illegal, but I did know one thing. He had sued the previous company we worked for over them verbally agreeing to pay for something, and he had also recorded them. I know it dragged on for about 2 years and was settled out of court. I think it was cheaper for them to just pay him than to keep dealing with this bullcrap. Did I want any of that? Heck no. So I said, fine, leave it at the office, I'll be in to sign it. I want it done with this insane man-child. Story time, the build up to sweet release. Now you're all probably going, okay, the previous section is the compliance from the title, but where's the malicious part? Oh dear reader, I was never a strong believer in karma, but from what I had heard, she can be a cold, fickle witch. And I assure you, she does, in fact, come back to bite you in the butt with poetic justice and a sense of humor. A little over a year after signing the non-compete and being rid of Dick, I was enjoying my new job. I get a phone call from one of the last big customers I did a setup and install for a few months prior to me quitting. The customer, you ask? A woman's abuse center that had converted an old building into a safe house for victims. Dick had managed to get the job to redo the interior network, furniture, camera systems, security doors, and the alarm systems. He had also sold them a service contract for the camera, security doors, and alarm systems where we were on call 24/7 for the next 3 years. If something went wrong and the site could not remain secure, we had to get it fixed yesterday. This was not a small chunk of change, and it was due up front to get the best discount, but the abuse center had government backing, so they got Dick to agree to half up front and then payments after a year and a half. I knew the wording on these contracts because I had to give him worst case timeframes for getting things fixed if crap hit the fan. This will be important later. Now, due to the nature of the client and the job, I made sure my cell number had been laminated, and I literally glued it to all 3 systems with instructions to call me if they needed anything. The reason they were calling is they had had some personnel changes and needed to change the door codes. Not real secure if former employees can still access the building. They also wanted to set up remote camera access for new security monitoring purposes, and they needed to know how to do all of this. Now, if you read through the entire post, you know that I had made some very detailed notes, as well as instructions on how to do all of this. A set of all of this, as well as all the credentials to log into the systems, was in a nice secure binder on site. One problem, they couldn't find it. Not to worry, I would have planned ahead and made backups of all that and kept it on my company laptop with approval from the customer, right? If you said yes, you get 5 points. If you're thinking, this guy sounds seriously paranoid about this stuff and probably made another copy on maybe a disk or a thumb drive, again, you would get 5 points. I always kept a secure thumb drive on my keys and backed up this type of info religiously when I worked on jobs. You may distribute these points to whichever Hogwarts house of your choosing. I informed the client that I was no longer with Dick's company and they would need to contact them directly to get this taken care of, and I bid them a good day. 2 days later, I get a call from my replacement asking me for help regarding this matter. Not wanting to be a complete butthole and knowing that the abuse center needed this resolved, I informed him that the droids he was looking for were in fact on the company laptop. They were hiding on the D drive in a folder called Backups. There would be a folder with the client's name and all info should be right there in front of him. He asked me to hold on while he gets it, and I wait on the line while I hear him fiddling with the laptop bag and booting it up. Now the new guy was someone who clearly was not ready to take over everything I did. And me, I'm facepalming and head desk in disbelief. And of course Dick is someone who's about to be truly screwed. Here's the conversation. Oh, okay, new guy says. I got it booted up and I don't see a folder called Backups. It's not in the documents folder. Is it somewhere else? No, not the documents folder for the D drive. Then what drive? Okay, look, open up my computer, and you should see the C drive and the D drive right next to it. Oh, okay, there it is. Hang on, a window popped up. It's saying, insert disk. I'm sorry, it's saying what? It's saying, please insert disk. Okay. So are you clicking on the E drive by chance? No, there's only C and D drive. Our more tech-savvy readers probably know exactly what's going on. Okay, so hold on. So just to be absolutely clear, there is only drive C and drive D listed, no drive labeled E. That's what I'm hearing, correct? Yes. You didn't happen to reformat the laptop or anything like that. No, I only do copier and printer work. Dick's kid does the PC stuff. Can you tell me what the icon looks like in the bottom left-hand corner? Is it round with 4 color squares or 4 white squares? 4 white squares, why? Is Dick in the office? I'm gonna need to talk to him. No, he's out right now. Okay, please have him call me ASAP. I need to talk to him about this. Okay. Now, Dick's kid, Mini Dick, trust me, fitting name, was 15 years old when I quit. I had shown him some troubleshooting stuff, and he knew enough to be very dangerous if unsupervised. I mentioned this because when I turned in the laptop, it was using Windows 7, round button, 4 colors, but now it was Windows 10, 4 white squares. There was a Windows 10 USB in the laptop bag, and I was eventually going to upgrade it once I'd made sure all the software I used was compatible. The pit of my stomach knew exactly what happened. Either Dick asked him to do something with the laptop after I turned it in, or he took it upon himself to upgrade it to show his dad he could do this stuff. Pick one, but I knew he had deleted the separated partitions I had made on the hard drive to keep crucial data safe if Windows went tits up and I needed to restore or do a clean install and not have to worry about pulling the data. What Mini Dick had done was nuke the entire drive, and all of that backed up data was now gone. I get a phone call the next day, first thing in the morning. Dick says, "I was told you need to talk to me. Is this about the abuse center? I told the new guy to handle it and call you. You always kept instructions for all that crap. Just tell him where it is." Oh, I already told him where to find the info, but there's a minor problem. It's gone. What do you mean gone? I know you kept backups. I did. It was on the laptop when I turned it in. It is no longer there. What the heck do you mean it's no longer there? Did you remote in and delete it? I know you did stuff like that to fix things. You shouldn't have been able to do that. I had Mini Dick make sure that you couldn't do that. Oh, he certainly did that, but he also wiped out all of the backup data, Dick. What? I can't say I'm 100% sure that's what happened, but I'm like 99.99% sure that's exactly what happened. Wait. You kept multiple backups. You told me that. That thing that you had on your keys. Yeah, you didn't give me that. Tell you what, you give me that and I won't pursue legal action since you didn't give it to me when you quit us. Yeah, that's gonna be a no for me. The heck do you mean no? You have to give me that. You didn't turn in company property. I'll sue your butt. Okay, first, that thing I had on my keys was my personal device. I bought and paid for it with my money. So I didn't need to give it to you when I quit. Second, I wouldn't give it to you even if I could. I destroyed it after I quit because of the crap you just said. I just knew if I kept anything related to clients and you found out, you'd try to sue me like the man-child you are. Third, the only reason I'm talking to you, honestly, is because I just want to help the abuse center, not that you give a dang. Oh, this is BS. You're lying. Just you wait. I'm gonna... No clue how many times he called me and texted. I just put my phone on silent and enjoyed the rest of my day. Now, I'm sure many of you are probably calling BS. There's no way you remained that calm and said that. Remember, I worked for Dick for 9 years. I knew his habits. Number 1, I had 2 days between the abuse center calling me and the new guy calling me. I knew that new guy would need my help if he couldn't find the instructions I left. Lots of tech jargon involved, but it took me a week of mock building and tweaking everything to get those systems set up exactly how the customer wanted it. And if he factory reset them to use the default credentials, well, I enjoy doing it the very hard way. Number 2, I had an entire day between Dick calling me back and talking to the new guy. I had a raging justice boner the entire time. I had his nuts in a vice, and I knew it. Malice, best served cold with a side of mint. Previously on this long post, I remember I signed a non-compete with old Dick Boss, who pretty much screwed me over 10 years, and I moved on with my life. Dick Boss had a client that he needed my help with. He threatened to sue me if I don't do what he wants. I hang up on him and hatch a devious scheme. After hanging up on Dick Boss, I was heartbroken and felt that it was my responsibility, nay, my duty to contact the abuse center and inform them of the situation. All joking aside, this could have actually put people in danger if not resolved somewhat quickly. So I talked with the secretary and asked to speak to her boss. Luckily, it was the same woman in charge from when I installed the systems. She knew how much I cared for and busted my butt to get things exactly the way they wanted it. Karma equals the big boss woman. Ah yes, irony. And I'm our valiant hero who only wishes to protect the innocent and maybe screw over his old boss in the process. Of course, Dick is the former boss who done screwed up big time. Karma says, "Hello, me, it's been a while. I understand you wanted to talk to me about the issues we need to resolve with our system that you set up for us." I do. I wanted to inform you that sadly, I no longer work for Dick's company." "Oh, well that's too bad. So why are you calling me if you won't be helping us get things fixed?" "Well, I wanted to inform you of the entire situation, along with reasons as to why I can't help, and give you some options to get this resolved." I proceed to inform her of the non-compete and all the following information. It's just my best guess, and I'm offering up my opinion free of charge. She can choose to act as she sees fit. I let her know that Dick's company most likely does not have the credentials and documentation needed to perform the task that she needs done. I can't say for certain though, wink wink. I inform her that if Dick's company does not have the proper info, they may suggest resetting the equipment, and it will most likely take even longer to get things fixed, as well as their current setup being wiped out, and only the factory codes will work. Also, the system will most likely not function the way they need it to. Again, I can't say for certain, nudge nudge. I kindly remind her of the service contract that she has on the equipment, and to look carefully at the wording on it, as it may come in very handy. Say no more, sir. I let her know that I wish there was some way I could consult with her or help her, but due to the non-compete, there is no way I can help her since she is currently Dick's client. I make several suggestions on how to possibly deal with the situation after reviewing some things and getting options. After all this, she thanks me for my time and said she was going to be busy the next few days. Now, here is where all the malicious compliance comes to a head. I mentioned above for Karma to really look at that service contract for one major reason. The wording on her contract stated that if Dick's company was unable to resolve any issues the customer had within 3 days, then Dick's company was on the hook for any expense the customer incurred to work around said issues. Now, this was pretty standard wording on our service contracts, but they were mostly for smaller equipment and were worded as 2 business days. Basically, if company can't fix a printer or a copier and the customer has to go get things outsourced, the company had to pay for it. Karma's contract was worded as 3 days due to the site being occupied every day and weekends had no visitors allowed. I knew this because when Dick was selling the contract, he had me talk it up in front of the abuse center's board. To me, worst case scenario meant that the main systems all somehow got nuked. We'd be out same day to confirm DOA equipment and overnight new units that day. Again, worst case is it takes 2 days to get a system in on site. I drop it in place, reprogram, and boom, they're back up. The door systems all had emergency push bars on the inside, and the 2 inner steel doors had keys if power and backup power was dead. They were kept off site for security. Now, onto the possible situations and solutions. Since they could not remove the old codes and enter in new ones for the personnel changes, this posed a security risk. To remedy this, Karma should hire outside security to be on site till the old codes could be deactivated. If the company cannot get the system working soon, then Karma should contact the manufacturer's support line and request an on-site technician to come out and fix it for them. I know what took me a week to do would probably take a certified tech a couple hours at most, since they know the systems inside and out. However, those techs are heckishly expensive, and getting them on site quickly, you better get some lube and try to spread your cheeks for that incoming railing. If company cannot fix issues, then why did they sell the service contract to begin with? If they cannot service the equipment, Karma should get the contract canceled and try to get money back since Dick's company didn't support the products that they said they would. I got a phone call 2 days later from Dick, who was surprisingly non-threatening to start. "So, I'm in a bit of a bind here. I need you to help me out with the abuse center." "What do you want me to do? I signed a non-compete and I sure as heck ain't helping you out for free." "I thought about it, and I can hire you as a consultant to go out and get things fixed for me so you're not competing. You'll be working for me." "And how much will you be paying me to consult?" "How does $150 a day sound?" $150 a day? I don't know, man. That sounds awful cheap to me." "Cheap? That's way more than you get at your new job." "You misunderstood me. I meant cheap for you." "Explain." "I'm just guessing. It's probably costing you a lot more than $150 a day to pay for outside security around the clock at the abuse center." "How did you? It was you! I'm gonna..." Phone rings again. I pick up to more screaming. Phone rings a couple more times and I send it to voicemail. I think it was about 4 hours later he called me again. "Hello?" Slight inflection of joy in my tone. Silence for about maybe 10 seconds. Dick says, "How much?" "Well, to be honest, I can't help you." "What?" "Obviously, I have to have a paper trail since I can't trust you, and for me to consult, I'd have to give you a detailed invoice that would list why and what I'm consulting for. However, due to the rather descriptive non-compete you made me sign that specifically states I may not service any of your clients for 3 years, my hands are tied, legally speaking." "But good luck with that." I immediately blocked his number and laughed so hard I cried for probably 30 minutes. I don't think I've ever felt that good. Fallout, hazmat suits suggested. I got some details from the secretary at the abuse center. She was a chatty Cathy and loved drama. She talked my ear off when I did the install, so I called her a couple months later. Karma ended up having to get an on-site tech from the manufacturer to reset and redo everything. Not sure how long it took, but I know it wasn't cheap. On-site security was kept in place till the system was back up and running. Karma and the board went after Dick for all the contract money, the expenses incurred, the installation cost, equipment cost, even the legal fees. From what the secretary told me, he settled out of court. Now, she didn't have an exact number or what all they got him for, but it was dang close to 6 figures total. I ran into several secretaries from other businesses that I used to service and got even more details later that year. His tech quit, and he ended up selling the service side of the business to a company over the mountain. He sold his local storefront and downsized to an office closer to his home and focused mainly on furniture installs. Just last year, I ran into one of the owners from back when I started as a tech. Him and Dick were friends, and according to him, Dick is out in Texas working at a furniture place while his wife and ex and kids are still in state. He used her name and I didn't bother asking the status. I genuinely did not care. Be nasty to English as a second language folks who inadvertently use violent language? Now you're stuck with Memo Cannon, Report Crusher, and Document Hunter, posted by the Black Company Wiki. I was a freelancer for a media company that maintains a database for their videos, photo galleries, other digital property, as well as a separate bit for contracts and the like. One of the clients who struck a deal with them to utilize their IP was represented by a woman with serious bullying issues. Let's call her Boomer. She was a Luddite and rarely seemed to understand anything that was being said on the conference calls. So, I suppose to feel important, she acted like the grammar police and would interrupt her own boss's business partners and stakeholders in mid-speech if they said something slightly differently than how she wanted to hear it. Sometimes she did this multiple times in a single call. The worst was when she abruptly corrected English as a second language folks, like the group from India or the project manager from Germany or the account rep from Hong Kong. Really, any stakeholders from any non-Anglophone country who were still learning English. But on top of the grammar policing, she had a special fixation on correcting violent words and phrases. Now I'll give you some examples to follow. Now, this is something that I would support to a degree, as I do try to avoid that language myself when I have the presence of mind to do so. Now, there have been some fair-minded movements for years now, all basically calling for a reduction in this type of language. But Boomer never conducted herself in a way that was respectful of anyone about this. So for me, it's not about the nobility of someone's cause, it's about how you treat people. When someone casually said, "Shoot me a note," very common to hear, Boomer would interject, "Wait, why did you just say that?" You could hear a pin drop. The proverbial tumbleweed would roll through. It's hard to convey the total rudeness in a Reddit post, but this is tangible stuff. She would then pontificate briefly on why such phrases were unacceptable, and it's a shame we've not moved beyond this language. And then suddenly, it was crickets again, like we're supposed to go back to the topic at hand. Like she didn't just treat someone like scum for saying a very common phrase. It's such a disruption, and she never apologized a single time. The first few times this happened, people were stunned. People from all countries of origin and all age groups, the other boomers, the Gen Xers, the millennials, and the younger folks. This also extended to hunting-related words, the phrase "shooting fish in a barrel," and harmless phrases like "deer in the headlights." When anyone said this stuff, she acted like she was being given carte blanche to be an entitled bully with anger issues for 45 seconds. Even the group I worked for, who got regular royalty checks from her boss, hated this. When she wasn't pulling these stunts, she was silent except for terse, distracted, soulless replies, and only when absolutely necessary. So to understate it politely, she earned only negative feelings from everyone. This came to a head. It turned out that the company was helping with a lot of her syndication and sublicensing docs and even cloud management free of charge. Now, they did not have to do so, and it was not in the contract. This had been unofficially grandfathered for her by one of the senior sponsors, and only because Boomer was a Luddite. The operations guy who did some of this grunt work for her finally got insulted by one of Boomer's direct callouts. He said something like, "We need a dev who can hunt down the root cause." And she snapped as usual. So he categorically refused to do the work, meaning she would need to pay extra or get database access and do it herself like all the other clients. I saw a fun opportunity here and seized it. I volunteered to handle it for her myself until I could set her up with the necessary access, at which point she ultimately would use the same screens I use. She readily agreed, and this is where I think malicious compliance comes in. We made a customized interface for me to use and then gave her access to it. They were technically the same screens I use. There was a Brazilian IT guy who hated her more than anyone, and a girl in the creative department who commiserated with our cause. I sold them on my little plan, and one evening we made it happen. There was a duplicate web GUI, or GUI, graphic user interface, that had been created for testing or something, but was now disused. We decided to grant her access to this GUI, not the production or standard one, but with key verbiage and icons of violent language that we knew she'd hate, perforating the entire thing. The quick access bar that follows when she scrolls had these 6 beauties. Report Crusher. This was the reporting system she would be using 24 times per week. The icon was a vice with the paper getting smashed inside of it. If you look closely enough, the paper had the tiniest frown. Document Hunter. Instead of just search. The icon was a bullseye getting hit with an arrow. Shoot us a note. Instead of just contact us, the icon was a speeding bullet with an innocuous, chubby-cheeked smile and a baby-like expression. Memo Cannon. This was my favorite little contribution to the whole thing. It was always just a broken link. It never did anything except take you to a unique 404 message page with a teensy little line art drawing of a deer with antlers, his tongue sticking out, slack-jawed, and X's over his eyes. I just thought Memo Cannon was the funniest phrase I had come up with, and we knew it would stare at her in the middle of her screen for the next few years. The icon was a squat little cannon with a sparking fuse. Troubleshooting instead of just help, but the two OOs in troubleshooting were crosshairs. Wiki Change Patrol. This was worthless since it just linked to a recent changes page for a wiki full of deprecated docs that nobody consulted. But the icon was a gendarme-looking guy with a smacking huge baton into his palm. It also featured these gems. The cancel button for the reporting system said kill task instead of just cancel. We had a file deduping routine. We changed the text for that button to say, got time to kill? She didn't have any permissions to access this actual function, but she would be seeing this button each time she opened any document in the web viewer. There were a handful of spots where the IT guy put a splash of camouflage coloration. In the standard environment, these were all just dead spaces. He thought, I believe correctly, that camouflage would get her blood to boil. Before we granted her access to this wonderful Frankenstein, I permanently switched to the same environment in GUI so that I could say honestly, yes, these are the same screens that I use, which is what she agreed to. I hashed together a walkthrough in PDF that even a zombie could learn from using screen captures from the new interface, passed it along, and that was that. The fallout is a bit anticlimactic because I never got any calls from Boomer directly with feedback that I could save her myself. This is because she lured some gullible student to do the grunt work for her in an unpaid gig. So where I thought I'd be cherishing the apoplectic response firsthand, I actually wound up liaising with the disinterested teenager. But eventually, it did filter back to me secondhand that when Boomer finally saw the screen, she was livid. She called the account manager and demanded changes. The account manager and anyone else we knew was liable to get a call from her had been prepped beforehand for this eventuality and had access to screen captures, which backed up the idea that what she was seeing was the normal interface. Absolutely no changes whatsoever were made. You cannot access this website posted by Zanies for All. Once upon a time, there were no iPhones, no Wi-Fi, social media was MySpace, and YouTube was pretty much just a shell of its current self. The internet had just hatched from its egg and needed time to grow into what it is today. But as a kid in the early 2000s, that wasn't helpful when you wanted to play games now and in school, because your parents wouldn't let you play them on a weekday, and you didn't have a Game Boy. So there I was, bored to death in the 5th grade because I didn't like school much, and that meant on Monday I'd have to wait 5 days to eventually get back to playing Star Wars Battlefront, the better version, not the new trash, or Burnout 3. As there was in most elementary schools, we had a computer lab. It was big enough to host one classroom of 40 students and then some, and we had state-of-the-art Dell computers with Windows XP. For the most part, we were limited to a few educational PC games, Microsoft Office, and the internet, which was limited by the firewall to just the educational sites and Disney's Flash games. They did have the Oregon Trail, but I was too stupid at the time to play it more than 10% of the way through without losing my money or everyone dying. The computer lab was accessible before school between 7 and 8:30 a.m., during 2 breaks, breakfast for 20 minutes, lunch for 40 minutes, and after school. The only problem was there was nothing exciting to play. I'd try every games website that I knew, but the result was always the same. Miniclip, you cannot access this website. Free online games, you cannot access this website. Newgrounds, you can't access this website either. Okay, fine. Nickelodeon, you can't access this website. I guess they don't like SpongeBob. One day, my older brother, the computer whiz, finds out about how to download flash games from around the internet onto his local hard drive, which is as simple as taking the cookies from where they're stored onto your computer into an easily accessible location. Now, we start building a repository of all our favorite games from the internet, but the only way we can play them for now is on the weekends and through the Flash player. No matter, we have a repository, except at the time, I didn't really know what else to do with it. Honestly, I have my older brother to thank for a lot of this, since he was really into computers and the internet, because the next find was really important. Freewebs.com, the free website hosting site. There's only so much a 10-year-old can do with this, but I spent hours designing and playing with the website. I'd substitute game time with free website designing. It wasn't necessarily a video game, so my parents didn't mind me on it, and I found out that it wasn't a block website at school, so I'd just keep building websites in my free time. Once the website was finished, I'd build another, continuously improving and upgrading and designing with new combinations. It went on like that for about a week, and I'd have 5 free websites built in that time. And then I found out that you could upload Flash components on a page. Now imagine, you're 10 years old and you just found out that Pandora's box is standing right in front of you and you can do whatever you want to with it. What do? Keep it to yourself? Tell an adult about this newly discovered volatile power? Hide it and make sure nobody else can use it for evil? Close, but not quite. I embedded a healthy variety of Flash games on that page, from the really meaty ones like Drag Racer V3 and the Murloc RPG to some miscellaneous light ones. This was a trial run, after all. I just needed to know if it worked, and if it did, how far I could push it. I did my work and went to sleep a little early that night, because curiosity got the better of me more than staying up past my bedtime did. That next day, I walked into the computer lab right when it opened up, the only one to walk in, and went straight for the website to the page where I embedded the games. I remember being so anxious about whether or not it would work, and the uncertainty was nagging to me ever since the car ride to school. I just needed to know, would I be able to play those games? To put it simply, there wouldn't be a story if they didn't work. The games worked! Not all of them did, but they worked! Drag Racer V3 had a save function, so all I could really do was play arcade mode, which was fine with me, but just about everything else worked as I expected them to. The problem I did find was space on the website filled up quite quickly, and I told myself that night I would embed more games on the other sites I built. I'd focus only on games that I could play casually, not lengthy ones like Murloc, because if I couldn't save, then there was, really no point in playing them. By the time I left the computer lab that morning, there were 3 other kids. This trend would continue no matter when I went. I went home that night, fixing everything that I could. When I reached my perceived limit, about 20 small games on the main site, I would load more games to another site. Eventually, I would move to fixing each website so they were separated by categories like action, shooter, racing, and so on. But as far as I was concerned, it was a problem for future me. I'd go to sleep early again, be the first and only one in the computer lab, and be one of only a handful of kids that would stay there. That would go on for several weeks. One day, the computer lab was busier than usual, which was fine because that was 10 kids and I was guaranteed a computer I could sit down and play at. A group of maybe 3 of those kids saw me playing on my websites and, without asking for a link, just looking at the URL on my browser, they started playing. For now, it was just me and those 3 kids, and I really didn't think much of it. I went home that day just thinking about playing another game and switching up the website so I could navigate it easier. I went to sleep and got to the computer lab the next day, the first one there. A little while later, more kids started walking in. Day by day, there were more kids coming in. By the end of the week, it was half full. A week after that, no more than 10 computers were left vacant. Eventually, on the guest book, because free webs had that to allow you to post comments on the site, I had commenters, everything from fans of the website saying hi to kids who wanted to play a certain game from a certain site. It became a thing where I would read the requests during the day, make note of what games I could actually add on what website, and then download them and replace them later that night. Months later, the websites I built packed that whole computer lab. I even remember a day when I walked in late and there were kids watching each other play when they couldn't get a computer themselves. I couldn't even find one to get on, but adolescent me felt a strange sense of accomplishment and pride, seeing so many people recognize the work that it took to build something that they could all enjoy. Unfortunately, over spring break, the school district also recognized my work and rewarded me with a firewall notification the Monday I returned. I was upset, but I'm looking back on it, and I realized that I followed the rules so well that it caught the adults' attention. It was interesting because I wouldn't talk to anyone outside of me playing my games on the computer, but I felt like the mastermind, sitting in plain sight, who was the reason everyone was here. I don't think anyone connected the dots that I was the reason the computer lab was probably packed. It's probably not a great malicious compliance, but it is a story that I think about from time to time. How would you handle this? It's called I sold this house to you and I want to buy it back for less than half the price, posted by My Kinetic. First, let me describe the kind of aunt that we have. This aunt, or entitled aunt I should say, of ours has been the source of headache for us as a family, emotionally and monetarily. She would always ask my mom and dad for a loan that would take years for her to pay. Where those loans go is one of the biggest questions to date. And whenever my mom or my eldest sister would ask her for the payment, she would just always play the I'm family card and be all emotional and crap to play on my mom's emotions. My mom has a soft spot with her family, and she would most likely, just let it slide. But not my eldest sister. She would constantly remind and warn my Aunt Karen to pay her debts or she'll do something about it. My aunt would then turn to my mom asking for protection from my sister, to which my mom would talk to my sister about it. My sister, though, is not having it and is just relentless on her pursuit of making my aunt pay her debts. This got to a point where my aunt warned to sue my sister if she doesn't stop, to which my sister openly invited. My sister works on a law firm, so she knows the law and that our Aunt Karen has no case at all. Ultimately, our aunt paid, but not without any parting words of how our family are a bunch of rude people and that she would never talk to us again, and such. But after a month or so, she made up with my mom and everything was well. Except for my eldest sister. So for some context with the title, my aunt put her house up for sale due to her children moving out. She had 2 daughters who were all married now. Initially, she said that the house was getting too big for me to keep and maintain, and that she'd plan on buying a nice condominium near the downtown area. Her house is like a 30 to 45 minute drive from downtown. My uncle didn't want her to sell to someone that they don't know, or at least they don't have an affinity to, so she suggested just to sell the house to a relative or to a super close friend. My aunt then talked to my youngest sister, I have 3 sisters and I'm the only guy, and they pitched her the idea of buying the house from her. At first, my sister didn't really want to entertain the idea of buying a house at this point in time, as they have 2 kids that they are sending to a not-so-cheap school. But my aunt then pulled the sentimental value card and that it would be a shame if the house was sold to someone else. Admittedly though, the house did have sentimental value for us siblings and cousins. We used to spend our summers over there as it's in a pretty nice neighborhood and we have friends there as well. A basketball court is fronting the house, which is a win-win situation since they both have boys and her husband is a good basketball player. My aunt saw this as an opportunity for the boys and her husband to train or whatever. To my aunt's credit, she did have a nice pitch to my sister, so I gotta give her that. My sister and her husband discussed this in length. It took a month before they had their decision. My sister and her husband, they decided to buy the house as they have long planned to have a house of their own. But her husband's grandmother begged them to stay at the current house they're living in until his grandmother can return back, as she was sorting something out from a different city. So they decided to have at least until they are ready to move. My eldest sister, who, by the way, was against all of this, helped with all the contract and the legal stuff so that they can cover their bases. The details of the sale, well, they aren't really familiar to me, but if my memory serves me right, the house and the lot was sold for more or less 1 million pesos. My sister gave my aunt a more than generous amount of time to move out, which was 6 months. When the time came that everything was moved out, my sister and her husband decided to pay a visit to their recently bought house and see to what extent the renovation would be. And to their surprise, the condition of the house was a literal crap hole. The walls and the ceiling were falling apart. The tiles on the floor were chipped or starting to get chipped. The main bedroom was a mess, and the kitchen smelled like someone died in there for weeks. Although my aunt did disclose that some renovation work would be needed, but she never disclosed that the house was that screwed up. But whatever, they decided to have the house renovated, and it cost them another $300,000. Once the renovation was done, the difference, it was night and day. As they were not moving into the new house yet, they listed the house for lease on some places, and it garnered a lot of interest. The house was then leased to a foreign couple. The transaction went smoothly with the help of my eldest sister once again, and the couple even paid full price for the whole duration of the lease. Everything was smooth as butter until yesterday. My sister got a call from the couple who leased the house early in the morning when she was dropping off the kids to school. This was on a Monday, and my sister is usually super busy on these days. And this was one of those days. She answered the call, and the following ensued. Now, side note, this is all based from my sister's retelling of the events and conversations. It might not be 100% accurate, but I'll try to be as close to it as possible. So we have my sister, the nice husband, the nice wife, and the entitled Aunt Karen. Sister says, "Hello, nice husband. Haven't heard from you for a long time. May I know why you called?" "Hey, there's someone at the gate claiming that this is her house." Sister's confused, and she says, "Huh? She just might be a crazy person roaming around the area." "Well, no, she showed me pictures of the house and her in it." At this point, my sister kinda knew what was happening, so she hurriedly drove there. She was coming from a different side of town, so it took her about an hour to get there. When she got there, she saw entitled Aunt Karen outside screaming to let her in. The neighbors were already out and witnessing the commotion. Karen sees my sister and hurriedly goes to her. "Hey sister, they won't let me in," and she points toward the nice couple. "Karen, what are you doing here?" "Well, this was once my house. Am I not allowed to enter?" "What do you mean?" "I sold you this house, remember? And now I see that someone else is living here." "Well, they are leasing the house." "What? Why would you lease the house to someone that I don't know?" Sister's getting angry at this point. She says, "Because this is my house. I can lease it to whoever I want to." At this point, my sister couldn't believe the stupidity of this situation and was kind of getting embarrassed with the neighbors looking on, so she told Karen to go inside so they can discuss it. Once they were in the house, my sister introduced Karen to the couple who leased the property, and the following ensued. "How much did you lease this house for?" Karen asked the couple. Excuse me?" "I said, how much did you pay for the lease?" The wife chimes in, "Hey, I'm sorry, but we don't see the need of discussing that to you." "Why not?" Turns to my sister and asks, "How much are they paying for this lease?" It's none of your business, Aunt Karen, okay? This is my property, and I'm already generous enough to have you let in." Whoa. I sold you this beautiful house, and you treat me this way?" She looks at the couple again. "Was the house sold to you too? Tell me." The husband laughs. Look, lady, even if we did buy it, we don't need to tell you the specifics since we're not dealing with you. And no, we didn't buy this house." "You're a liar," faces my sister and says, "I'll take the house back now." Excuse me, are you out of your mind?" "No, I am not, and it's clear to me that you are an irresponsible homeowner." She takes something from her bag and says, "Here, take this 300,000 pesos and give me back my house." 300,000 pesos? Seriously? She slams the money to the Karen's chest. My sister's fuming at this point. "You need to leave my property right now. I won't allow you to disrespect me in front of these nice people. 300,000 when we bought this house for you for 1 million? You can't kick me out of here. This is my house. Sister grabs her phone. I'm calling the cops now. Karen then bolts out of there, and on her way out, she screamed, I'll come back and take the house. This is not the end of this. After Karen was nowhere to be seen, my sister broke down in front of the nice couple. The couple asked her a few details about Karen, and they were super understanding. My sister offered to return about a quarter of the total money that they paid for the lease, but the couple said that it's not necessary. Her husband knew what happened, and he was furious to a point that he almost went to the condominium where Karen was living in, but my sister was able to calm her down before anything bad had happened. As for now, my sister and her husband are seeking legal advice from my eldest sister and her firm. Do you agree with this comment? The aunt has absolutely no legal standing in this situation to do a dang thing. The house is your sister's, free and clear. She can do what she wants with it, and I'm sure that your other sister will tell her the same. I would suggest telling your sister and the couple leading the house to get a stay-away order against the aunt so she just can't barge in without consequences. You think a restraining order would work? Let me know. Despite the will, my Aunt Karen thinks my parents' property belongs to her by deleted. This happened almost 5 years ago, and I just got notice yesterday that my entitled Aunt Karen has just died, and I got a call from her husband asking me to attend the funeral next weekend, and I declined. As did my older brother, Mark, for the purposes of this story. Karen was my mother's older sister. She constantly interfered in my mother and her children's lives. She never liked my father and always tried to tell my mother that she made a mistake by marrying him. She didn't like the name that my parents picked out for my older brother, and my great-grandmother died the day before I was born. And when Karen found out that they were going to name me after her, Karen freaked out and said that she wanted to name her potential future kid so that my mother couldn't use it. Then she tried to talk her out of it by saying that it's too old-fashioned and kids would make fun of me, which they did, but for other reasons. She criticized both my brothers and my choice of friends, and even complained when I started playing softball because proper ladies didn't play sports, and if her daughter ever tried playing a sport, she would have her removed from her team. Spoiler, she never had children. The day after my 16th birthday, my parents drove on a business trip down to California, and I live in Idaho. My dad said that when they got back, he would drive me to the DMV to get my license. He never did because on the drive to California, they hit a patch of ice, spun out, crashed, and died. I was a wreck for some time after that. I didn't even want to attend my high school graduation later because my parents wouldn't be there. Their will split everything evenly between my brother and I. At the funeral, my parents, who owned their own business, production manager Tim, was talking to my brother, and my brother told him that in a couple of weeks he would step in and take over, and he was counting on Tim to run things smoothly until then and to help him in taking it over and learning the ropes. I had no interest in the business other than it was a guaranteed summer job when I was growing up, so I stayed out of it and just collected profit checks until I sold my half to Mark, and he continues to run the business to this day. Mark told Tim that he should assure the employees that their jobs were safe and that no major changes would be made. And then, one day, Aunt Karen showed up and began putting her stuff in my parents' office. And when Tim confronted her about this, she said that his services were no longer needed and he was fired. Tim called Mark up, and Mark went down with the family attorney, some police, and the necessary paperwork and had her removed, while she said that the place was now hers because it was her sister's, so now she was the owner. As long as I have known her, she has never had a steady job, and she's had 3 husbands, not counting the man who called me, never met him, and milked each one for as much as she could get until she divorced him. The next day, I was leaving for school. I walked, it was fairly close, probably around 10 minutes, and saw her car and a moving van parked outside. She said she was moving into her house and then said in a sickly sweet voice that for a reasonable rent, she would continue to allow me to stay there until I graduated high school. I went in, I called my brother, and he again showed up with the family attorney, police, and all the paperwork and had her removed from the property. I was at school, so I didn't get to see what happened, but that night, Mark gave me a business card for a policeman who I assume helped deal with all of this, and told me that if I ever saw Aunt Karen on or near the property, to call that number and report her immediately. Don't even try to confront her or give her a warning, just call. I do know that the movers charged her to move her stuff into the van, drive across town, get turned away, and drive back across town and move her stuff back into her apartment, which she hadn't given notice yet. I got scared to the point that I didn't even like letting our dog into the backyard when I was at school. I used to put her out in the yard to let her play in the fenced backyard while I was in school. For a while, I just put her in the locked and closed garage and then cleaned up her messes when I got home in the afternoon. Eventually, Karen moved to Colorado, where I assumed that she met and married the man who called me and then said that she had died and he couldn't find anyone from her family to attend the funeral. I chose not to tell him about her, politely said, "Hey, I'm sorry for your loss, but I can't make it." From discussions with Mark, he basically told him the same thing. Outside of myself, Mark, and Mark's infant daughter, I don't think she has any living relatives. I still own the house. Mark gave me his half as part of the deal where I sold him my half of the business, but I still sleep in my bedroom. I refuse to move into what was once my parents' bedroom, the master bedroom. I go to the local university, go Broncos, and still miss my parents and think about them every day. And even though I am 21 in less than 2 weeks, own a large home, have a lot of money in the bank, I would trade it all to have my parents back. But I don't care about the how or why of Aunt Karen's death.